AskReddit by either Engineering 71. How strict were your parents? I am surprised they allowed me to freely breathe. Oh, they definitively made comments on how you were breathing wrong during dinner. Can't have fun today. Had fun yesterday. Looking for this exactly. I could write an entire book, but I'll just put this one example. We weren't even allowed to ride the bus to and from school because we might talk to people. So they think you were 100% silent at school? Felony child abuse strict. Fuck, that's awful. Let me put it this way, my father would hit me because I made my zeros counterclockwise instead of clockwise. People write them clockwise? When I was like 12, I was in the car with my mom on our way home. A girl I went to school with rode by on a bike and saw me. She yelled out really loudly I was sexy, and then rode away. My mom chased her down with the car and told her to never talk to me again. Worst car ride ever. Oh my gosh, that seems terrible. My mom once told me I was out of control because I got caught speeding like 10 miles per hour over. I never drank, smoked, or partied. But my speeding was clearly going to land me in juvie. Oh, and my boyfriend put his arm around my shoulders while we were outside talking, and that also landed me a lecture. You will get pregnant. Then you will die. It depended very much on how drunk they were and how much they were fighting each other. But I had gotten my fair share of insults, threats and beatings. The insults and threats continue to this very day, although the reasons have changed. That's why I'm glad mine are dead. Not strict in the scary sense, just very overprotective. Means even at 37 I'm quite a nervous, self-conscious, anxious person. I feel this one. I was never hurt or physically punished, so it seems pretty inconsequential to other comments here, but having such overbearing protection to the extent you never really got an opportunity to go out and have independent experiences of the world meant adulthood was even more jarring and difficult to navigate. It's also a difficult thing to argue against because the logic is always we're just keeping you safe. That's all well and good until you're conditioned to be paranoid about anything outside the front door. Asian mom and ex-military dad. The mom is a low-key narcissist, and the dad is OCD. Take a guess on how well that went. Not at all. When I was like 12 I stayed at my friend's house and they didn't even call me till like 5 days in. They were also druggies though. I feel like druggy parents are either way too lax or straight up abuse, and there's very little in between. Strict enough. I learned manners, limits, and how to behave properly. But I still had ample room to have fun and be a kid. The wooden spoon may or may not have been used. My mom broke the wooden spoon on my ass. After I brushed my teeth my mom would inspect my mouth LMFAO. After I caught my son running the toothbrush under the sink to trick me, that might not be a bad idea lol. Let's see, wasn't allowed to cut my hair ever, even for trimming split ends or getting bangs, had to wear skirts covering the knees at all times, couldn't watch 99% of movies or listen to 99% of music to name a few XD. Username checks out based on childhood lol. I can't go to the bathroom without asking permission. I can't drink water without asking permission. I have to stay in my room all day, and they have cameras in my room. Police now. As long as I kept my grades above a C, not all that strict, probably about a 3/10. Exact same as my parents. Hell, I'd call mom and tell her I was skipping school just so she didn't get worried if the school called and told her I was absent. But I passed all my classes, went to college, worked hard. They said I was a good kid, so they didn't really worry about me. Dad was understanding and talked through things. Mom was a debilitating helicopter. Not really strict at all. They gave me a lot of freedom. Deleted. Not strict at all, then way too strict. No middle ground. They were super permissive most of the time, but when I got in trouble for things I think they just had no idea how to handle it and would go super far. I got an F in a subject in 6th grade. I didn't deserve it, but they didn't realize that until years later. Different story entirely. Their response was to throw away everything I owned except for my clothes and a clock. I was grounded to my room for the rest of the school year, several months, and the only thing I was allowed to have in there was schoolwork. I was 10 and clearly remember carrying a garbage bag with my Star Wars toys in it to the garbage. I suspect that episode gave me a lifelong tendency to be secretive because I had to sneak things in past the warden. Now that I have kids I have more perspective on it, but I absolutely have never done anything like that to my kids. I'm not claiming to be the greatest parent ever, but my strategy is to talk it out and try to learn how they are feeling and try to address that. Extremely strict. So much so that they'd randomly ban new things for religious reasons, like throwing out my wax warmer because it was a skull. We're Mexican, skulls are a major part of our culture. Or coloring my hair and using tampons. I honestly had a lot of freedom because I was such a people pleaser that I'd rather out my siblings and cousins all the time to gain favor with the adults in my family. I must sadly admit it took me way too long to realize that they banned tampons at random and didn't, in fact, ban you from coloring tampons. I think I may need to go to bed. Had to be home before the street lights came on. Other than that, I was free to the world. Dad, couldn't care less most of the time. Very relaxed, overall chill. Mom, I am now fairly good at lying on the spot and can subconsciously recognize anyone's footsteps from sound alone. Also ended up learning how to forge signatures so I wouldn't have to get her to sign shit for school that I didn't want her seeing. Overall not the worst all things considered, but I definitely have issues talking to people because of my mother. Yeah, same here. Be strong. If you ask them they will say not at all, but in reality they were very strict. I smoke blunts with my mom. Little more than average, but thankfully they basically treated me like an adult by the time I was 17. I knew people whose parents tried to control them with rules into their early 20s. Saying things like, when you live under my roof, you answer your phone when I call. My parents would do that even when went off to college and moved out.